everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the SBK Betting Podcast. It's Thursday, the 24th of October, and it's very much autumn season. But for all you National Hunt fans, we've got a great mix of both this weekend as Cheltenham is back, but we still have Group 1 action, whether it's right or wrong to still have Group 1 action on the flat, considering the flat season is officially over after Champions Day last weekend. That's for another conversation. But we're going to keep Ross and TC very happy indeed. A lot of racing that we can both enjoy. First of all, last week's winners, Kyprios, the mighty Kyprios, one of Tom's favourite horses in training. He won his 7th consecutive race this season at 4 to 5. He is completely unflappable and a joy to see. Him amongst plenty of storylines from Champions Day at Ascot. And Royal Rhyme, which was tipped up by Ross at 50 to 1, was placed in the Champions Stakes, third in that race. So a great selection, Ross, in what was a very messy race indeed. Plenty to come out of it. Not being the overall winner, but on a day where we want to crown champions, it was probably a little bit of a unsatisfactory viewing spectacle, but you'll take it with Royal Rhyme.
Yeah, I will. I started to get quite excited 2 furlongs from home, especially when you could see that there was traffic in behind. Just to hit on that really quickly, a couple of things about Champions Day. The apprentices don't get their moment in the sun because they're chasing winners at Catterick, basically. That doesn't seem right. You know, they're young lads that, when they lose their claim, often struggle. So to put them in the spotlight would make more sense. We're going on to the Futurity today, a Group 1 for 2-year-olds, a week after the season ended. That doesn't make sense. And racing on the inner course at Ascot consistently provides unsatisfactory results because, as you say, you get loads of traffic. I think it's a weekend that's got great intentions. It just doesn't quite hit, I don't think.
Yeah, there was a lot to take out of it. I think there were some good performances. Kalpana was my standout, but a few tinkerings they could do to make it an even better Champions Stakes. Have to say, extremely well attended, and that was the biggest positive I could take from it. Lovely to see lots of young people there, and the place was full as I've seen it since Royal Ascot. So that was that. Ross, will keep with you because I'm sure there's a smile brimming from your face as we've got Cheltenham returning this weekend. Friday, it kicks off. It's the opening meeting, and October, it feels like probably hasn't come soon enough for you. You've been longing for the jumps racing to come back, and we've got some really good action. As always, very well supported by trainers, the biggest trainers. But also what I love about this meeting, Ross, is that you get those trainers who've been busy with their horses over the summer and want to try and give that horse a go on good ground while they still have it, and try and see if they can just add a little cherry on top of what's been a pretty good summer. But on top of that, you've also got horses that are beginning their season as well. So all in all, before we get into the race that we're going to focus on, great to have Cheltenham back.
Absolutely it is, Jess. And of course, the other thing you miss is you get lots of Irish raiders for this meeting. Gavin Cromwell's farmed it over the last couple of years. And of course, it just would, flag as a punter, you need to tiptoe because you are getting those horses that are fit from the summer that will still get their ground versus perhaps higher caliber horses that, might need the run, particularly in the case of Paul Nicholls' horses. There's undoubtedly that they need the run. He seems very defensive about it. I don't know why. It's just a fact, and I wouldn't hold that against anyone for letting their horses build into the season. So it's never a weekend that I go hard on from the punting, but I'm really excited, and I genuinely feel a bit conscious about not gurning like a complete clown because I'm really excited to get the jumping back and the proper jumping at that.
Okay, well, let's focus on the Class 2 Handicap Chase over 3 mile 1 furlong on Saturday. It's 2:20. And to your point about having Irish representation, we definitely have that in this race. We definitely have trainers in a lot of very good form already this season. Nigel Twiston Davis being one of them. He'll have his top class Broadway Boy, who's 4 to 1 favourite at the moment for this. You've got Senior Chief for Henry de Bromhead, who likes to bring horses over at this time of the year, 7 to 1. Some scope for your good friend Richard Hobson is 7 to 1. Lamilos, the Skeletons have been in good form, 15 to 2. Does he know, 9 to 1. Bigger prices, the rest of them. So Ross, as you mentioned, trainers that are in good form, that's always a plus. How much do you feel there are some trainers you target for getting their horses completely ready and spot on for a race like this? And will this make an impact on your selection here?
It normally would, Jess. I mean, I think, like I said, Gavin Cromwell often fires them here. Nigel Twiston Davis has hit the ground running with his horses this year. They've just dropped off the last week, but had slightly less runners. So I think Broadway Boy is the the place you've got to start. Mark of 149, having been on 150, it's perhaps yet to really prove it in a genuine handicap. But his win in December does read really well. 300 through 5 went on to win that competitive race at Ascot, although I do think he's a bit of a monkey. But Protectorat was back in third. Well, what he went on to do in the spring certainly means that form needs looking at seriously. He likes a sound surface. He clearly copes with this track. I do think he likes things his own way out in front. Whether he's going to get that here, I'm just not sure. He does strike me as a horse that's got a mistake in him if he's not left alone in front. I think if he gets horses in and around him, I think he can walk through one occasionally. Nigel Twiston-Davies at 24% strike rate. He seems like the right favourite, but I just wanted to try and find something at a bigger each way price. Some Scope had a really good year last year. We went chasing as a 5-year-old. Fairly liked the race over hurdles. He ran well in his debut, won his next 2 starts, ran a massive race in the Grimthorpe over 3 mile 2 on soft ground. He's by Telescope. They tend to like better ground. And I know that they had a big discussion before actually letting him take his chance. And they were glad they did. They think he learned plenty. He missed the last there, which perhaps cost him victory, but I think he was running on petrol at the end. I think only 4 finished. It was a really attritional race. Bounced back in the spring, ran well, finishing 4th at Cheltenham. Posted quite wide, ridden quite patiently, and he sort of came with his run and that flattened out. But that was April, and Richard's horses tend to drop off sort of from April into the spring. He gets blighted by the rapeseed that grows next to his gallops, which doesn't help him. I think he's returning on a really workable mark. I know they hope that he'll be rated higher than this at the end of the season. I certainly wouldn't put anyone off him at 7-1. But just at a bigger price again, the horse I like is Pepe Le Moco for Jane Williams. He's only had 1 winner so far this season, but they've been running well enough. He just caught my eye. I thought he went through the race like a very classy horse in his wins at Warwick and at Kempton over 2 mile 4. That was on soft ground. He stayed really well on each occasion. His final run, if you look at the bare form of it, looks a little bit disappointing. He only finished 4th. But he was bang there at the last, again at Kempton. Looked to just be headed, and when he got headed, that maybe just compromised his chance a little bit. He made a mistake at the last, and he weakened in the closing stages. But I think it's really interesting that they go straight up in trip with him for his first run of the season. Jane Williams, over the years, has had winners at this meeting as well. He's a young horse, plenty of progression still to come. So Pepe Le Moco is my shout at 10-1 with SBK each way.
Yeah, not been an easy season, easy ride for Jane Williams. I think there was another winner at Exeter a couple of days ago. So from what I can see, it's 2 now. But it was a long spell of no wins. So they'll be hoping that the horses are sort of turning a corner. Okay, really comprehensive look at that. TC will easy win, because I know you'll probably have more to say when it comes to Futurity. But early thoughts about this race from a jumping semi-fan perspective. What would you like to see run for your money?
Yeah, well, I love jump racing, but I don't love jumps racing at this time of year. That's all I'm saying. I'm still in the flat mode, and obviously I'm out in Saudi right now, as you can tell by the different surroundings. So I'm definitely not in the gear of Cheltenham just yet. When it comes to the November meeting, I definitely will be. This is a very competitive race. I'm glad that Ross gave a comprehensive look into it, because I kind of needed that myself, to be honest. The one horse that really caught my eye in the field is Chasing Fire. And I think you're getting a pretty good price about him, around 10-1 right now for Ollie Murphy, who has just started the season in fantastic form. It's currently striking at 28% over the last fortnight and seems to be winning with all of his young horses. Talking about young horses, when Chasing Fire was a young horse, they loved him. They thought he was going to be a future champion. They went to the Supreme after winning 5 races to kickstart his career. And he didn't run overly well. He finished 13th or 14th. And then he was a little bit disappointing on his final run as well last season. Came back as a novice chaser. He was very good first up. He beat Pembroke, who's a pretty nice horse for the Skeltons, but then just tailed off a little bit in his subsequent efforts. And it was mainly due to the fact that he just wasn't jumping his fences very well. He was making big mistakes at crucial moments of the races, which would just put him on the back foot, lose all momentum, sap his tank full of energy, and he just wouldn't finish his race. However, I thought the most recent start we saw from Chasing Fire, he was so much better over his fences. And that just leads me to believe there's a lot more to come from this horse. And considering you're getting a big price in what is a very competitive race, if he jumps as well as he did last time out, I think he could go close off what looks a pretty good mark. And one last point on Chasing Fire. He's 4 from 4 when he comes off breaks of 100+ days. That does include his point-to-point first ever outing and his first ever outing under rules. But it clearly goes very well fresh. So first time up this year could be a good angle with him.
Yeah, he's actually really lightly raced. Only 12 rules races, and he's 6 from 12. So that's pretty good stats for him. And as you add those stats coming off a break, I like that angle there with Chasing Fire, who's 10-1 at present with SBK. There is a 25% boost on this race from SBK, so definitely avail of that. Very, very good race, very good racing in general at Cheltenham. I'm sure there might be a couple more selections from Ross when we get to NAPs and Next Best. But as I said, and this is controversial, there is still a Group 1 on the flat, so we will focus on it. And the Futurity Trophy at the 240 at Doncaster, the last Group 1 of the season, or the last Group 1 of the year, as the season is finished, will take place on, as expected, testing ground. It is officially soft. I think we probably had it softer for this meeting. It can be nearly unraceable. And we have a field lineup which is headlined by Wimbledon Hawkeye for James Owen. He's had just the most unbelievable season. He's really showed what a talent he is. He can train absolutely everything he holds his hands on. And to complete his first season with flat horses in a Group 1 with a Group 1 favourite is some achievement. So Wimbledon Hawkeye heads the betting at 100-30. We've got Delacroix at 4-1, Hot as Hell, I should say. Before that is at 7-2. Detain is 4-1. Anno Domini is 8-1. Seaplane 10-1. Raw Playwright 16-1. And Nebras is 25-1. I think it's quite a nice field size considering, we've had a lot of 2-year-old juvenile races at this stage, Tom. There are plenty of options for horses. Seems to be a lot of good quality 2-year-olds about, or at least the connections believe their horses have got the capabilities of going well in a Group 1. So I quite like it as an overall picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree by any means. This is a pretty good renewal of the Virgin Futurity, which can sometimes kind of end the year with a bit of a whimper, considering the status of a race. Sometimes we lack the depth, sometimes we just lack any kind of quality in the race. But this year we seem to have a bit of both. Obviously, Wimbledon Hawkeye should be favourite based on the official rating of 114. As you say, James Owen has been fantastic throughout the whole year, basically calendar year, jumped and flat. And this horse ran behind the Line in Winter in the Acomb 2-back. And I think the Line in Winter is probably one of the best, if not the best 2-year-old that we've seen this year. Unfortunately, wasn't able to be tested a couple of weeks ago, but still is definitely right up there for Aidan O'Brien. That Royal Lodge victory last time was solid, and soft ground or heavy, whatever we're going to get at Doncaster, should be absolutely fine. So I certainly see the case for Wimbledon Hawkeye. Delacroix, similar situations apply. Was very impressive last time, battled well, has that extra stamina which you usually need in a Virgin Futurity, but does come off a relatively short break. So that was the only reason why I looked away from Aidan's runner. I ended up siding with a horse in Detain. He's probably got more to find, actually, than the others that I've just mentioned there. Has to improve, but has the potential to definitely be one of the better horses in this race. Before I go into some stats there about Detain, trends tell you need to focus on the top of the market, which is kind of where my eye was looking. 13 of the last 20 renewals of the Virgin Futurity have gone to the Jolly, and the rest seem to go to horses who are very close in the market, and the Jolly then finishes second or third. So it's pretty much a race where you shouldn't be delving too deep if you're looking at trends anyway. When it comes to Detain, he's had 2 starts, both at Kempton, both of which very impressive. First time came from off the speed, was very powerful in the latter stages, surged to the front and kicked clear with ears pricked. And then last time, it was an egg and spoon race. He was sent off a very short price favourite. But I love the professionalism he showed that day. Kieran Schumacher took him straight to the front rather than holding him up behind horses. He kicked just as the intersection came at Kempton, and he just went further and further clear, winning basically head and chest. He didn't beat much, but it showed more professionalism. It showed a maturer horse. Now, on pedigree, soft ground, any kind of give underfoot would be perfect for Detain. He's a half to Arrest, who obviously is a group winner on very testing ground. He's also by Wootton Bassett, who won the Group 1 Jean-Luc Lagardère when he was racing, and has a 20% strike rate with any horse, any of his progeny, with soft in the ground conditions. So I like any kind of testing ground for Detain. I know the weather looks a little bit better at Doncaster than it does for Newbury for the remainder of this week, but hopefully it's still a little bit soft, maybe good soft in places, soft ground, something like that. And as I say, he does need to take a step forward, but on his handicap mark right now, he's already proven that he's well capable of running in a listed or group race. So why not try the Virgin Futurity with him? Jonathan Thady Gosden looking for that star. Detain could be it.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my brain, Tom, as to when the last time John and Thady Gosden had a 2-year-old Group 1 winner. I don't know if it was potentially too darn hot, but
Could
maybe
be,
there's been
could have
something.
been.
It might have been something before then. It's been a quiet old time in this division for them, but they look like they've got a good one. And obviously, we saw Field of Gold is definitely going to be even better next year. But Detain has got everything going for him. So Detain for TC, and in a race where I think you're going to get a nice price on a horse that could be hard not to crack, but he's 4-1. I suppose he's just not been tested in this kind of grade yet. I thought that this race had some nice angles. I like the profile of a horse like Hot as Hell. Great to see Jessica Harrington with a horse like this, hoping to go and take on the likes of Aidan O'Brien's again. But what do you make of Wimbledon Hawkeye and his opportunity here, and what has been achieved by James Owen as a great horseman yourself? You know what, it's not easy to be able to have your eyes on absolutely everything, but he's seemingly doing it in a very successful way, and he's really nurtured this horse and brought out about its talent. So he's got a cracking chance of landing this Group 1.
Yeah, and to point out, James Owen is still training Arabs as well. I think that this is his final season. Yeah, he is across everything. I'm disappointed that Mattori Bay wasn't declared. I had unfinished business with him. I think Wimbledon Hawkeye at 10-3 is a really decent price because he was closing on the line in winter when they met. Now, okay, he might have been powering down, but he was just getting going. The line in winter, I mean, TC would say better than me, but I think he'd be an even money shot, if not shorter, for this. And I think Wimbledon Hawkeye should be shorter. I think the only reason he's not is it's a relatively quick turnaround, and he's had a pretty busy end of 2-year-old campaign. But the ground is no issue. The track's going to be no issue. We know the trip is going to be no issue. I think at 10-3, you've got to back him. But I did just want to have a sort of one up my sleeve as well. And I think Anno Domini for Godolphin Charlie Appleby, it's only got an official rating of 97, but that's an incorrect rating because since he's run, his last run was July, Winlord has finished third in the Group 2, has got a rating of 105. He was a length and a bit behind him and was receiving £5. So I always think when Anno Domini is carrying a penalty in the mid part of the season, you need to upgrade those performances. Angel Hunter was third. He's rated 90. Hawksbill was fourth. He's been deemed good enough to run in the group race. He was 95. It's a bit of a concern. He's been away since July, but he is going to arrive there fresh. So you can flip that on its head if you like. It's by Newbury. So I think the ground's going to dry out. I spoke to my local meteorologist, Auntie Lynn, and she said it's nice weather up in Doncaster. So I think it will be close to good to soft than soft. But even if it is on the slow side, he's by Newbury, should cope with it. I think that he's overpriced at 8-1. Wimbledon Hawkeye to win and Anno Domini to hit the frame.
Okay, 8-1 Anna Domine, and as I say, Wimbledon Hawkeye is 100-30. So got some options there for the Futurity Trophy Stakes. I said that last Group 1 on Saturday at Doncaster, and big thanks to your auntie for helping us out with from a weather perspective. It does seem pretty dry out there, so it could be a better running of the race on better ground than we've had in the past. Okay, let's move into NAPs and NBs. There's such good racing. If you're a National Hunt fan, this is great. Aintree on Sunday as well. Could you keep an eye on decks tomorrow? Obviously Cheltenham on Friday and Saturday. Ross, you had a great 50-1 each way selection for us last week. What are you most looking forward to this weekend?
It will not surprise you, Jess, that what I'm most looking forward to is the jumps racing, but there is a good card up at Kelso as well. And actually my nap comes from there in the 4:30, a horse that I have tipped up plenty on this podcast. I absolutely love him. He is genuinely one of the best jumpers you will ever see. And it's Bollinger and Krug for Lucinda Russell. He is the absolute epitome of a course specialist. He's got 6 career wins. They've all come at Kelso. When he goes away from Kelso, he just cannot reconfirm his form. He was well placed last year. He won a couple of times, got up to a mark of 125. That was probably above his ability. And he then went off on his travels. He went to Newbury a couple of times, didn't cope with that at all. Went to Ayr once, and he's down now to a mark of 117, which is just £2 higher than he won off last year. He's won off a mark of 121 as well. He's a bold front runner. Derek Fox rides him really well, really aggressively. I think he'll make it 7 wins at Kelso and land the 4:30. And my next best comes back at Cheltenham in the 3:30, the Marston's Hurdle. The hurdle for 4-year-olds, quite competitive. I think Bottler's Secret for Gavin Cromwell is going to be popular, but his form has all come on really desperate ground. And I just am not sure that on his pedigree, on everything I've seen about him, that he's going to be as effective and as quick on this better ground. Conversely, Gimme 5, although his form has come on soft ground, it did come once at Kempton, and I'm not sure the ground was quite as slow as soft. He's had a prep run for Harry Derham on the flat, finished second a month ago. Harry Derham, if we talk about trainers hitting the ground running, 40% winners to runners so far. I think this will have been a target from some way out. Harry Derham is really ambitious, really wants to kick on. I think he'll have had this lined up from some way out. I think that prep one was exactly that. And although he's got a little bit to find on official ratings, I think he'll handle this better ground, better than Bottler's Secret. So Gimme 5 is the next best in a 3:30 at Cheltenham.
Okay, well, we'll be enjoying it alongside you. I know you'll be very much enjoying the racing every day this weekend. Great to have Cheltenham back. Would not be surprised if TC's focusing on some other flat meetings. We've got Newbury as well on Saturday, which has got pattern action. So what have you got for us, TC?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Newbury for both of my NAP and next best. The ground is currently described as heavy, and the going stick reading is 3.0 the last I checked, which was on Wednesday evening. So it is testing, and there is some rain, albeit not a lot, in the forecast. So I think the ground is going to be actually heavy at Newbury. Might not be at Donny, as Ross has said, but at Newbury it should be very testing. So I'm looking for two horses that definitely handle conditions. Now, my NAP is going to come in the Radley Stakes. It's at 2:00. It's one of the features of the day at Newbury. And it's going to be a horse called Supermodel for trainer William Haggis and Tom Arkund and owner Saeed Suhail. They actually had two horses entered in this race. Nadra was another one, both of whom had a very similar profile. They both made their debut on heavy ground at Haydock on September 27th last month. They both won their races really impressively. Haggis has opted to run Supermodel in the Radley on Saturday. And I don't mind it. I would have put up either horse here, whichever one he kind of went for. I think they're both open to loads of improvement. And I love the way, especially Supermodel, that she moved through the race. Tom Arkund held her up. She was in behind horses. Once he spied a gap, he went for it. And unlike most 2-year-old fillies who would probably just shy away a little bit and not have the courage to go through, she went for that gap. She went straight for it, bumped her rival, albeit within the rules of the game, out of the way, and then just kicked clear with her ears pricked. She did it very well. Now, the negative, or question mark maybe, is that she only recorded an RPR of 81, and the horses in behind weren't much cop. One of them's rated 70 now, I think finished third. It just wasn't a great race. However, Supermodel can only beat what was put in front of Supermodel that day, and she did it so visually impressively that I think she's well capable of stepping up in class to listed company and winning. And William Haggis knows more than me when it comes to that, and the fact he's put her in this race also suggests he thinks the same. So I'll take Supermodel as my NAP in the 2:00 at Newbury. My next best is going to be very left field for a number of reasons. Firstly, I think the price is going to be very fair. Secondly, it's an each way next best. And thirdly, I don't usually tip or bet in apprentice races, and this is an apprentice race. It's the 450 at Newbury, and it's a horse called Mrs. Meader. Don't know what price she's going to be, but I think she'll be relatively big. She's 8-1. She's going to be ridden by Ross Burkitt. She's trained by Julia Fielding. Now, this race just doesn't look strong by any stretch of the imagination. It is a typical apprentice handicap ending a card. However, Mrs. Meader has previously shown that not only does she handle the track, she's a 2-time course winner here, but she also handles heavy going. She actually won this race in 2022 on heavy surface, and she did it very impressively. That came off a mark of 64. She's run a number of relatively okay races since, but she's generally struggled to get ahead in front. She did win 2 starts back at Bath, which was a good sign that she's back in form. And then last time she didn't get the run of the race at Yarmouth. She's still rated well. She's in the 50s now. She's below where she was 2 years ago when she won this race. And albeit she may be regressing at her great age of 8, I still think Mrs. Meader, with the conditions in her favour, is going to go very close. So an each way next best here, Jess. Mrs. Meader 450 at Newbury.
Thanks to Ross and to TC. I'll quickly give you a couple of my selections, as I'm really looking forward to seeing Hot as Hell run in the Futurity. I think this is a horse that the Harrington team have always held in high regard. They were pretty mortified when it was beaten last time, and we'll hope to give Delacroix something to think about. I was chopping and changing with Delacroix. I think quite a bit of an arse running him only a few weeks later after what might have been a tough race on very testing ground last time. Hot as Hell has been freshened up that little bit more, and I think he's the class angle in the race. I also like Intense Approach in the 145 at Cheltenham, a horse that was last seen finishing second at Chepstow in the opening meeting when he was behind Flying Fortune. That was over a trip I think might have been just a little bit sharp for him. He's stepping up to 3 3 miles for the first time, which I think he should get. John McConnell has booked Harry Cobden. We know how dangerous John McConnell can be when his horses are in good form, taking them to Cheltenham. He didn't have a brilliant season last year, but I think that he's got his horses in a better place this year around, albeit not been many winners to come by, but he's throwing in a lot of horses out, so I think they probably needed a run or two to get there, but this horse intense approach is definitely a classy looking type. So that's the 145 at Cheltenham. Okay, we've got a lot of offers this weekend, so make sure you get involved with SBK if you're watching the racing at Cheltenham. There's a 20% ACCA boost on Friday's card at Cheltenham. There's a 25% boost on the 220 at Cheltenham, where we've given the selections from Ross and TC. And then, if that's not enough, on Sunday at Aintree, where there's the Old Roan Chase and there's plenty of good racing, a great way to spend your Sunday afternoon, there's a 20% ACCA boost on Sunday's card at Aintree if you're betting with SBK, which I hope you are. And if you're a new SBK user, you get £40 in free bets when you sign up and bet £10 for the first time. So make sure you can head to SBK for all the offers and promotions that we're giving you this weekend. T's and C's always apply, but very much I hope you have a great weekend enjoying it, whether you're a National Hunt fan or a flat fan. There's everything for you, and we'll be back next week with a Breeders' Cup special. See you then.